Hello, welcome to another edition of the Low Code Campfire. This is the 122nd edition for Friday, November 3rd, 2023. Today we're going to discuss headers and footers using our generate PDF action on request and anything else you want to talk about. So first, let me introduce myself, Dale Warner, Head of Support for Plantain App. Patrick Anderson is on the call as well, Technical Success Manager. And here we go. This is an event we do every Friday, 10 a.m. Central Time, and it's an all skill levels welcome event, beginners through experts. And we hope we're glad that you joined us. Hope that you join us. If you're watching this in replay, join us for future episodes. We do put all these out on YouTube for replay, youtube.com/plantainapp, so you can subscribe there. We run the same agenda week by week. We do introductions since it's a meeting format, very informal. And then we'll do first call always, and then take a look at some other things depending on where the conversation goes. After an hour or so, we go into an unrecorded segment, our afterglow segment, and where we just continue the conversation, but without the recording. So do jump in and engage with us. We do ask if you've got noise going on that you use the mute button. You can submit questions and topics in advance, and you can either send me an email or use this QR code to get to a form that will allow you to do that. And Matthew has provided a topic for us today. So this is an opportunity I get to prepare a little bit and look like a smart guy because I know the answers when in fact I had to do the research. With that, I'll say good morning.
Hello, morning.
Good morning.
So we move right into first call. Anybody have anything that you want to take up first?
Well, you got mine already.
Craig, did you have anything you wanted to get into first? It's possible your mic is not working. In any case, let's work on Matt's topic for a little while. So I put that in as a campfire contribution so that we could all look at it and remember it in future episodes. It's this new contribution 63. So for anyone watching in replay, it's campfire.plantainapp.com. And this is a website where we just put out a variety of techniques and things that we learn. And so if you're a member and participant of Campfire, I can give you a login. You can add your own contributions here. But I've added it as a contribution, and so it's talking about implementing headers, footers, and page breaks with the generate PDF action. And I'm going to click go so it opens that page. And so what I've put together is just a very an interactive way to build a PDF. I've got some PDF content here on the right hand side. It shows a style sheet that an inline style that sets the text size, I've got a page break class that can be used. It's got some standard more some text. I've used the page break here at one time so you can see how that gets encoded. And so but the focus of this the question was about headers and footers. So I've provided two different options because our generate PDF action gives us a couple of different ways that we can do this. And so one way is by providing an HTML, so you can provide HTML files that in this case, all I'm saying is that I've got a header. My header is going to be a header during Campfire, and my footer is going to be footer during Campfire. So interactively, you can just click get PDF and it will generate using this content. So we have our header, we have got a page break here, got our footer, and then the text goes on and on. The other option is to do it by way of command line, and this gives you the ability to say you're going to have a top left, top center, top right. So I'm in the top left of my header is going to be Campfire contribution. So the right side is going to be headers, footers, you generate PDF, and the bottom center is going to be a page number. So if I do it with that variation, we get it this way: Campfire contribution. So left and right, and if we look at the bottom, we've got page 1, page 2, page 3. So, Matt, one of the things that I learned or experienced with all of this is that you were asking particularly about the HTML version. Things that I learned is that these two seem these capabilities, doing a header and a footer, seem to be mutually exclusive. Using the so, for example, if you provide a header one way and then a footer trying to provide a footer a different way, it doesn't work. And so, anyway, might be. I think I skipped a little bit. So let's take a look at the code, the options behind here, and then I'll be interested to know what trouble you got into.
Okay.
So I'm using this header footer option called PDF header option. It either has the value of HTML or command, and so I'm generating in the button get PDF. I'm generating in one of two ways. So the HTML variation takes the PDF content and sends it to a file in my temp folder, and I'm adding in the other options. This is really where the area where we're working, the other options, that the header HTML and footer HTML are the parameters in use. I am creating two files, and I did that up above. We did a save file for the header, and so I took the header off the screen using the save file action. I'm sending it out to something called header.html, and I'm getting the URL of that. So I'm writing it to a file and then getting the URL so that I can pass it to the PDF generator. Did the same thing with the footer, except it's called footer HTML. Getting the footer URL. So when we get to the generate PDF, I can pass it the header HTML, footer HTML, pass those URLs, and it knows then to use them. These are
Dale, do they have to be files, or can the header URL just be a header as a static field that just has the HTML in it?
So all of this is determined by this documentation, which I have here. And I mean, I think the short answer is I could not find a way to do it other than by passing files.
Okay, fair enough.
If you go to this, this is the underlying product that does the work. And if you look at the documentation for this, so header and footer, we have the options to provide a footer HTML URL, or you can provide it options, and that's where these center and left and right come from, where you just pass it text. And that's the other way that I did it. So we'll explore that one just in a second. But I couldn't find a way to pass the HTML just directly. If you think
Okay.
about it, this product is something that runs on the server, and so you have to pass it content, and you know it's designed so that we can pass it the PDF content, but not the headers and footers. There aren't specific fields for it, so we have to follow along and pass files.
It makes sense since it's a server. So, yep, thank you.
So Dale, if you could go back there, I followed directions, which is not typically my way of going about things. And that's where I got into trouble. If you go down to the bottom of this page, or toward the bottom, keep going. See, all right, see this one, headers and footers can also be supplied. So I took that code, and like I said, I was in this was not a high priority item, but I wanted to try it. So I took that code and saved it out on the server and I tried a couple of different locations. And basically it complained it wouldn't allow the PDF generator to run. But that said, taking your example and the way you approached it is actually much better, because I think you've got it all self-contained right within the form itself. It does the job quite nicely. So I think your solution is better. But so yeah, thoughts?
So I experimented with this and couldn't get this to work. So what this says is that I'm sorry, I can get it, and I'll show you here in a second. I can. What I was trying to do is that you want to be able to include the like the page number. For example, this script was going to give you access to all kinds of things that you needed to have, and then down here they have a span class page that is supposed to give you the content. And so let's take what they've done and put it into structure that I've put together. If we go to the HTML variation of this, it'll let us put whatever we want. This is going to be written out to the HTML file, so it's going to be good to go. So we've taken all that they had, and I didn't want to do this as a table, but if I just want the header to be this page indicator, it should just should put the page up there.
You need a closing span there, Dale, after 2-page, I think.
Thank you. Yep, I got rid of too much. Good catch. So if we generate this, get PDF. Wow, it did it this time. Okay, page 1 of 3, 2 of 3.
Oh.
So I was wrong. The code works. Maybe I suspect when I did it the last time, I was maybe a bit lazy and didn't get the doc type HTML, and that might have been the problem. But so their code is giving us access to all the stuff, and these classes are working. Let's just experiment with this a little bit, and I wonder what some of these others will return. So for example, date.
I think you have to put it in brackets. Date. Oh no, maybe not. Okay, sorry. When you're doing it in the command line, you have to do the brackets, but
yeah, gives us a date. It's not probably not a lot of choices on how it's formatted, but it is giving us the date up there. Meeting,
well,
if you wanted to say, yeah. And you could add some
So-
JavaScript probably to get that done.
When you say, oh, format the date style,
Yes, it's 11/3.
Yeah.
If you wanted to just say November 3rd, 3
right?
with a comma, whatever, it's
The
this-
other thing you can do is if you put tokens in my case, I did a workflow. So if you define, let's say you did a SQL query to go grab the date, format it the way you want it, put it in a token, it will respect, but now I haven't tried it in the HTML version, but in terms of the command line version, it will respect what you put in a token.
and this version would too, because I mean for example, we could have a token in here called well, we could try it just directly here. I'm not, if it's not being expanded, we could expand it with one additional statement, so we can do that.
Right.
Yeah, so it's not being expanded now, but if we look at our code and just gonna close it all up so I don't. So in our get PDF option, where we're saving, this is where we're saving the header.
Mm-hmm.
Before, if we put a context thing here, so we'll add a create update token. Move it up here above. So this would be something like and then for our header file, instead now we use expanded header as what's being stored. So this will cause expansion, this will cause it to be stored. So I think
You still have your date time now there?
I do. Yep.
Okay. For reference purposes. There you go.
So any token
Huh.
you could store in the in that and get it expanded, and yeah, absolutely. So you're right, a variety of techniques. So you make, mostly you want the page number, I would assume.
Well, actually, I want a number of things, page number, and certainly that's very valuable. So you want to try another little challenge? How about a copyright symbol? That should be easy.
Sure. What is the?
It's the code is ampersand # 169. And you might need to put that in a span. I don't know. Oh no, you know what? There's a well, we'll try this. So it's # 169 semi.
Do you want to try the other variation as well?
Sure. The other variation is ampersand. Let me just confirm. Ampersand, and then the word copy, semicolon. Yep.
So when I'm clicking this, whoops, where's activate here? Oh. Yep, both of them work.
Okay. No. Okay. Very cool.
So one of the things I wanted to point out, just one of the learning experiences, I've encountered this before, but We generate the PDF and it outputs to an absolute URL in my case. And then you want to send it for visual download. The way I'm getting it to appear in a new tab is to use the redirect to URL. I'm using the absolute URL and then saying force download. So this action gets it to open in a new tab, at least here in Chrome.
So why the, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize.
Yep, you're asking about that.
Yeah.
So the issue is that I wanted to create the same file over and over again. So in my generate, I am generating a file called PDF test, and it's putting a .pdf on it. I don't want to GUI it. I don't want 1,000 files on my file system with every test. So it's just generating the one file every time. And the problem with that is the browser will consider, will see that file name and say, oh, that's the same file as before. And so you don't see a change. The browser, when it tries to open the file without that code, would just see pdf.test, pdf-test.pdf, says, I know that file, I'm going to serve it from my cache. And it it's the older version. So by it just saves the download. So by putting a code or changing this URL in any fashion, that tricks the browser into reloading the file.
Similar to images.
Correct. So I could have output a GUID or a date. In this case, I'm putting out a date and time that changes every time, and so it's just tricking the browser to download.
Okay.
So this variation is kind of cool. And so I think what I'm going to do is change my initialization of this header to be what we've come up with here. So hopefully it'll default to that now. Let's see if we can get this to work. Option, and it has that content. And so it has all our illustration of being able to use the more advanced techniques. Obviously, you can use less advanced techniques. And good deal. Cool.
Very good deal. Thank you.
I'm curious about where it's getting the time, because that doesn't seem to be UTC or your time. Oh, did you hard code? Oh, okay.
Oh, my token.
Oh, you. Okay, yeah, but still, even when there was a token there,
maybe it's server time.
Yeah, well, I was using daytime now, so that's
your server time should be UTC though. That's yeah, who knows? Just curious. It doesn't matter, but
it doesn't. But it's the next exploration, right? So let's fix this.
No.
That it is a token. And why is this? So the daytime now token is getting expanded. But it looks like
First time you tried it, did it expand?
Well, I typed it directly into the box.
Yeah, and this time you're I think it's when it's pulling the data in, it's expanding.
Round trip. Yeah.
So HTML. And yeah, so it's evaluating on the way in, which isn't particularly useful. But if we did this, the token is going to work. So you'd have to get a little creative with how you write this file. Oh, it's getting expanded when we, nope. It is getting expanded. It is 27. It's 5 hours. Different, but that's actually, oh, yep. It's this server is probably set to.
You probably set it to a different time zone. Yeah.
But again, my experimentation is you could, when you get down to these options, you can use these. If you use the URL versions of footer, you can't. I couldn't get it to use the header versions of center and font name and font size. These other ones. It's like if you go URL, it assumes URL top and bottom.
No, that's not so bad.
At least that's an area for exploration. I couldn't get it to work, but perhaps it did. It would.
Well, I mean, if you're going to the trouble of putting one or the other in
Yes.
an HTML, getting the other one is copy paste and change the variables you want to display.
Absolutely. All right.
Thank you very, very much.
Sure. Well, and I know we've talked before about using the page break either as a style or directly as a, in the HTML, in the style of an element to force page breaks to happen with this tool. And so, and I had never done it, so it feels good to have it down in some place where I can find it in the future when I want to do it, because my memory, as you know, isn't that long.
Well, in my case, I was building tables based on, in this case, a category name and then a list of all of the items in that category. And I was initially having trouble with, you just get the category, you get the table header, which was the category name on the bottom of page 1 and the rest of the table on page 2. And I did similarly, I did this page break, and it did a great job. It does a great job keeping the table together, which is nice.
Yep.
So thank you again.
Yep.
And Patrick, thank you for your help with that, by the way.
Absolutely. And Matt's referring to office hours earlier this week, where we were looking at the workflow logic that he was using. I'm curious though. You didn't, Dale. You didn't talk about the text options yet, did you?
I did very quickly. So the these command line ones, and I actually didn't expand into the code, so that's a good one to do. So from an interface standpoint, you can create you can see the result. So you top 6 zones, and so from an other options standpoint, it's the footer left, footer right, and footer center, and the same thing, header left, right, and center. And so the generate option for that was this one, where I'm passing in header left and I'm putting quotes around it so that it knows this is a big long command line going to the HTML to PDF tool. So I'm passing whatever you put in top left in the header left, header center, header right. I also said there's an option header line, which gives us that nice line between the header and the content. Oops. Also added the footer line, but then footer left, footer center, footer right. So that's how I'm passing those in. So you've got 2 different ways to do that.
Yeah, and it also should be noted, I took all of this because the command line was getting quite lengthy. I took this whole thing and put it into a token.
Yep.
And
So
it works.
and certainly you could build up a token, right? Depending, you could have a dynamic thing that sometimes included content or not, and then just throw the token on here.
Right.
Nice.
The thing I found out about putting these command lines in a token, at least in what I did, was I wanted to, for instance, have the company name. I couldn't put the variable company name in the core token because it wasn't getting evaluated. It was just showing up bracket company name.
Yep.
But in that case, then I had to put the token company name in the other options, just like you're doing here, and then it worked great.
Yep. Yeah, there is a thing about when expansion happens, and this particular tool, the fact that they in this other area use something that looks like a token structure adds a little challenge, right? That if you want to pass bracket page bracket to that tool, it has to be unexpanded. But in your case, company name, you want it expanded. So you just have to watch and be very careful about what that expanded result looks like.
Cool.
Anybody, I haven't read through this documentation. Are there any other options that look particularly handy anybody has used?
One thing I did notice, and I haven't tried it because I haven't really needed it, but the version of the DLL that's in use is like 12.5 or something like that. And with 12.5, the table of contents apparently does not work. And there's a 12.6 out that, as I understand it, fixes that. Didn't try it, TLDR sort of thing. No, Ben, I didn't.
Just checking.
Thank you, though.
So I suspect some of these options we're either using or assuming they have certain values as we execute this underlying tool. So I would imagine some of these things you could you could get into impacts that you didn't intend, which is why we have this use with caution. You just got to test it out and see if it does what you want it to do. But I don't think you can, in development, I don't think you can hurt anything. It's just a question of whether or not you can get the impact that you want. Cool. All right. Separately, even as I was starting to work on this yesterday, I got a text from Bogdan who indicated that he was looking at another interesting way to generate PDF content, and so there might be. He seems to be inspired to consider another one. So down the line, we have options on how to generate PDFs, but this tool will sure remain around for a long time.
Dale, I took a note for us to look into the version to see based on Matt's comment just now.
Yep, very good. And that'd probably be a very easy one to implement a version. Great. A couple of people have joined us. If you'd like to say hello, feel free. If you have something, we're back to first call or any call. What is it that you'd like to talk about?
I have 2 items if there's nothing
Great.
else.
Jump in.
So first thing is, and I think this was discussed last week about formatting deets within a grid, but not through SQL. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Mark was the one who brought it up, where he was pulling a deet or rather, he was pulling all of the fields from a table in entity, not through a SQL source.
Mhm.
So then when he was dumping the date onto the grid, it wasn't coming out in the format that he wanted it. Or he wanted to interject it, sorry, with something else. So he wanted to do a computed field.
Calculated or formatted.
Right. So when you dump the field there, you can't format the date. It just comes in as Plantanet pulls it.
Yes.
I did notice that he put in a feature request into the communities sometime last month, probably around the same exact time, requesting that feature. And I thought about it and I was like, I've had the same problem. I'm like, I don't understand why I didn't even think about this earlier. I just created a token myself. It took me all of a few minutes. It's pretty simple, and I pasted it onto the feature request. So if you do a search criteria for token, oh, actually, it's right under, it's the second one. And it's pretty tolerant of any date that you send it. It's just basically a simple token. You send it a date and you send it the format you want it back in.
Yep.
Cool.
Yes. So by wrapping the date into a token, now it's evaluated at runtime or display time. The token gets evaluated and replaced, and so you could have any format that you want and still put it together. So instead of the listing doing the work of formatting, which it can do on columns, you're getting tokens to do the work of formatting instead. Very cool.
So then, would this token be able to return back just the year?
Anything you want.
Because I was thinking, going back to the PDF, the copyright, you want typically copyright year. And
Yeah,
obviously you could do
you have to pass it a date and then the format you want it back in. So like if you passed it a date that was today
that. Mhm.
and said you want the format to be YYYY, it's just going to bring back the year.
And it's using the standard .NET date formatting.
Yeah,
Right,
it's
yeah.
pretty standard date formatting period.
Yeah.
Everyone pretty much formatting wise uses the same thing. So capital M's is month, lowercase m's is
Right.
minutes, hours, whatever. TT is AM, PM, ZZ is time zone. All the
And like
that's pretty much standard.
4 M's is the full month name, that sort of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I was
That's-
checking the input date, and it's pretty tolerant on what you send it. .NET is pretty good. I'm using a triparse, and for argument's sake, if you did 1300 as the hour, it'll bring back 1 p.m. If you typed in 1:00 p.m., it also takes that and parses it correctly. So a variety of different ways you can send the date in, and it's pretty tolerant of all those dates. But if for whatever reason it cannot parse the date, it will return bad date source as the response.
Importing your token into a
Under tech.
date, run it, and so we get bad.
Oh, and I spelled
Bad
supplied wrong.
Well,
You get the hard
Mhm.
stuff
what
right
you get
then.
for freeware, right?
Oh, that's beautiful.
Makes a lot of sense. I've written one like this before as well. I think mine, I actually did SQL, you did Razor, so
Yeah, SQL's what I've used for this purpose, but I like the Razor idea.
Yeah, I like the raise idea only because it's, and well, at least in many of my cases, my SQL server and my IIS server are separated. So it's another server it's got to communicate with and potentially delaying the whole process. And even if it was on one server, you're still getting a call out to SQL to do work to come back.
Mhm.
If it's
Yeah,
within Razor, it stays within the IIS server. So it's much faster to get a response than to push it off to SQL.
right.
So for anyone following along, the str date format is getting it from the token params date format to string. So by this is saying this is our standard saying I want a parameter. Parameter I want is date format. So now inside of this called it's expecting date format. And it's turning it into a string. So you have a date format, and then you're doing trying to parse the date that's coming in through the same parameter structure turned into a string. So date turned into a string, and then oh, I'm sorry, you're saying this is saying is this a good date? Otherwise, you get bad date supplied.
Yeah, the way
Supplied.
the tri yeah, the way the date triparse works is it's basically saying date is the namespace. So it's the data type. The data
Mhm.
type date, I'm trying to parse the parameter that is sent called date. And if it's successful, it throws the result into DT source date. So if that string is successfully parsed, it's thrown into the variable DT source date, which is a date type variable. And at that point, I take that variable if it's successful, and then I do a toString and supply it the date format that I want to return it as. Otherwise, if it fails the parse, then I send bad date supplied
We know what you
or
meant.
supplied.
Okay. So not hard. Remind us why you do the definitions up at the top.
That's a habit. The reason I do that, excuse me, I just took a drink of coffee. Wrong pipe.
Yeah.
The reason I do that is out of habit. What I noticed is that if for any reason you supply a default value for a token coming in, it will not show up in, how when you just clicked on the play button for that format date and it dumped it into your box right there and it gave you all the parameters
Yep.
and it defaults it with value for each one, the parameter won't even show. And it won't show in the list either. If you click on like tech, well, you have it up on the top, the tab that says tech, that shows you all the tokens inside. You see how it tells you the formatting and it says date equals value, date format equals value. If any of those token parameters, you give it a default value, they will not show up. So you don't even know that there's a parameter involved inside. So my code, what I do is at the very top, I always make it a comment and I do not give it a default. That forces it to appear, regardless if later on I am giving it a default.
Yeah. And so it's almost a declaration of the variable.
In a matter,
Declaration for the
it's more for visualization, just so that
Yep.
if I'm looking at the definition, or if I copy it into memory and paste it elsewhere, all of the parameters will be included and none of them get dropped off because internally I'm giving it a default.
Good. Nice token. You've put it out here on the community portal underneath this, so that's a nice Wish granted for Mark. Have you heard from him yet? Have he got that?
I sent him a message this morning because I saw he wasn't on, and he said he couldn't make it today, but he is aware. I made him aware that I have a little gift for him on the feature requests section.
Good. It's I think going back to his initial request, I think this would be a good feature for us to have in the product, right? I mean, there's no, it's a very common thing to want to format a date the way you want to format a date. And
I did the work for you.
Yeah. Well, thank you. We'll just change the copyright and move on.
I fixed it. It now says supplied.
Oh, good. And like, love to illustrate this. You know, everybody wants to do something different, right? So be able to. Yeah. Okay. Love to play. All right. What else do we have? Did you have another one, Ben?
Yes, that was number one. Number two is actually in the feature request. So this is just a shameless plug for my own feature request.
I voted it up already.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I've often thought the same thing.
Yeah, it's silly, but I mean, it's not that it's a big deal, but it is a little bit of a nuisance. The button says copy field ID as token, but in reality, that's not what it's doing. It's copying the field ID as text. And then when you paste it somewhere, you got to put square bracket, paste, close square bracket. What I'd like to see is put in the brackets for us when you hit that copy. That way, when you paste it, everything's already done in token syntax.
Yep. So I would agree in most cases when you're using that feature, the ability to copy a field name, that's what you want to use it for, to refer to it somewhere else. One of the ongoing struggles for new Plankton app users is that knowing when to use brackets and when not to, and so it's summarizing it. If you want the value of something, you put it in brackets. If you're specifying the location of something, you don't. And so somebody could potentially want to use that same information as a target, not a value, and then they would have to remove the brackets. So it's I think the most common use is the way that you're talking about it, and I would agree. It'd be nice if it's as a token, especially since we refer to it as a token. But there is that confusion. You could need it either way.
Like you said, I think the vast majority of the time, people are using it because they're referencing the value somewhere else. For the more minor situations where you just want the text straight, I think it'd just be easier to put the brackets in, because I think that's more people would find that useful.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Good. Now that we're talking about this, I wanted to take a look at it, and Campfire seems to be misbehaving. I don't know what's going on with that, so maybe we have something long running on our test server. I should have been doing this while you were talking. The feature that you're referring to is when you're working with fields, we have copy field ID as a token. And so if we're going to call it copy field ID as a token, I would absolutely agree it should be tokenized with a bracket. If we said copy field ID, what we're really doing is, as a result, is copying field ID, right? So checkbox is named checkbox, and if we look at our clipboard, come on. Paste it here just for illustration. We're copying without brackets. So we're inconsistent with this. Cool. Anyone else with something you'd like help with? Okay, well, that was most of an hour. We've got 8 minutes left. This is, I guess we'll move on to last call if there's anything else that you'd like to talk about. Otherwise, we'll adjourn. We'll do that. Thank you for joining us for Low Code Campfire. We will do this again next week at 10 a.m. Central Time. Bring your problems, questions, and this assembled brain trust will try to solve them for you. Hang around for a few minutes if you'd like, and we'll do Afterglow. Thanks.